Welcome to Albion TV presents the AO Daily Show, your source of real news in an unreal world, keeping you up to date on the latest news, events, and the great community of Albion Online. Today is Tuesday, the 17th of August, 2021. I am your host, the Shozen One, and joining me today, once again, from a mystery beyond time,
Beyond
Bogul.
time. Hello.
Yeah, it's like you're separated by like time from me. It's like you're living in the future. It is already
Right.
like nighttime for you.
I guess if you
And
phrase it that way,
I
yes, you're
know how
correct.
the globe works, but I want to believe the earth is flat, and for me that doesn't make sense. How can it be flat if it's already 7 o'clock for you?
Uh, I don't know, dude. It's 9 o'clock, but yeah. Welcome to the show. I
See,
was
that's
just
how
like,
okay, it works then.
what?
That makes sense now. Yes.
What time is it? I got scared there for a second, man. Anyways, community show. What are we doing on the community show? Welcome everybody. Good to have you. Shozen, what topic do we have today?
Well, we have the usual PSAs, Bogle.
Uh-huh.
And normally
Gold. We have gold too, yes.
we have a little bit of gold. We're going to have to wait until tomorrow to receive your gold, but it will be going out.
Oh,
But today we have an interesting topic. You see, oftentimes, things appear on Reddit from the inside areas I don't talk about, such as the Roundtable. And once something from the Roundtable goes and makes its way into the public, sometimes I take it upon myself to talk about that. And we're going to do that today because there was a post by Korn on the Roundtable last week that was very, very interesting. And parts of it have leaked to the greater world of Albion and are being discussed in
the community, I would almost go as far as
Yeah.
to say, because this is a potential big change to how the living in the Outlands is going to work. And it generated a lot of I think at first it was like only partially clipped out and then generated a bunch of salt. Then somebody else posted more of it, and we thought, why not just try and give context as much as we can, right? We're not the developers, and we
Nope.
don't have background information, but we do have access to the Roundtable, and we can show the stuff that's been on Reddit for everybody, so everybody can see the uncropped version, which is, both things put together, but easier to see, and that's basically what we will do today. Now back to you, Shozen. How did I get here?
Well, I think you were talking about how, yes, it appeared on Reddit, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to read it directly from the Roundtable. I may have Bogle do that and then pause him briefly to discuss parts and give a little bit more clarity on some of this, because I know Bogle said that we don't have more background info on this, but that's not exactly true. I can't share. I can't share a lot of the background. So I guess it's true. We don't. I mean, I have filled you in on most of it, NDA style.
Right.
But it is an ongoing project that's being worked on, and it's very interesting. But before we get to that, I know maybe today more than other days, people are gonna be like, "Please move on. Please move on." No, we're going to have to go through the PSAs first. And we're going to have to remind you that today's show is sponsored by Sandbox Interactive, the makers of the new Mr. Bison skin.
Sandbags Interactive?
Sandbox.
Wow.
I did pronounce that funny. I will admit that.
Oh, my God. Yes. We missed Bison. Yes, here. Look at this. You can see it in game.
Look at this. Perfect, Bogle. You're a perfect employee.
Yeah. See, that's how it looks in pretty. That's how it looks in moving. It's kind of a thing that you want, right? And you can buy that. It's been out for a while. It's an ox skin, vanity skin, and it's available in the shop. It looks kind of cool. The weird thing about it that it has mushrooms growing on its head, and I am concerned that it's lip is sticking out, but I think it's just the color of his mouth there. I don't know, dude. But it's big.
I think his mouth is a little bit open.
Mm-hmm.
He's a mouth breather. And you can kind of see inside of his mouth just a little bit because the light is just right. That's one of those areas with a very ambient light. It's lighting up his mouth quite a bit.
It's a huge skin if you think about other skins. If you compare it to like this horse here or just regular character models, it's a big one. It's a big one. Yeah, so that is out. That's out and about, has been for a while. And the other thing that we are mentioning based off our sponsor is actually Snow Leopard, right? The
recruit a friend.
Yeah. I was going to make some sort of Disney joke, but I think that might get me in trouble.
No, the Disney one is the other one. Like, that's not very Disney. Like, I'm gonna be honest. That's more, your Ice Age or something. Like,
I'm getting community moderator videos and stuff, SBI employee Elsa vibes from this. Elsa Snow Queen and all. But it's just a lady with red hair in Albion that has a snow leopard. It had nothing to do with Disney. Out and about now, referring a friend. You also get tomes. Nice.
You also get tomes.
Well, it says there.
True. It's true.
Yeah, if T8 recruiters part of tomes, 200,000 fame. It's quite a lot.
It is. It's a lot of fame.
Yeah. That's out and about. Let's get it. Looks nice. Has a very long tail. Makes you stand out.
Those are all true things. It's totally true. I've just created a raffle for all of you who've furiously typed it into chat. You'll want to do that one more time so that you can actually enter into it and have your chance of winning. There it is. All right, Bogul. We also have the Divine Challenge. We have to let people know that the seasonal challenge is available. The Divine Challenge is back.
Mm-hmm. You can get the
That's
owl.
the one with the giant owl that looks really cool. But I think we've discussed a number of times that there are other mounts that we prefer its skill.
Yeah.
But as far as looking cool, I mean, not much gets cooler than that. It's a giant flying owl. Right out of Harry Potter.
I think during the NA reset, we had this one alliance just do all owls. And then they had like 40 people on screen all flying with owls around during Invasion Day. Was quite a sight to see.
You're supposed to say that was quite a hoot.
A what?
A hoot.
Oh, many owls is called a hoot?
No.
No?
A good time.
Oh. I get it.
Well, I think you're the master of the dad joke here, and I'm sure if you were to Google dad jokes, you would find jokes about owls that would all end in a hoot.
I'll accept it. I'll put it into my book of jokes for us to read when we ever have slow times in the future. Yeah. Is that it? Is that it for the words from our sponsor? Are we done with that section already?
We have one more.
Oh, okay.
Just one.
That's one.
Yep. The Season 13 Crystal League Championship is coming. It will happen. There will be one. We have a thread on it, and it has dates and times and places. We just don't know who will be there yet. I mean, I'll be there.
I'll be there too, probably. Saturday, September 18th and 19th in almost exactly 1 month from today. 17 UTC is when the stream starts. We do have the highest qualifying Crystal League matches. Teams from these Crystal League matches will fight it out against each other during a tournament where the big prizes, including the Saber Tiger Rex, which has been on sale listings, 3-4 billion silver-ish. So it's a big tournament with the best of the best competing, and it's always a lot of fun.
I agree. They're always enjoyable. We always get some surprises. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens this season, as it's kind of been the return of the Gargara team, bringing back the Ironclad while everybody else is running other weapons, other tanking weapons. They've gone outside of the meta. They're doing their own thing. And since they started doing it, they've been very successful. And this is after a downturn on the 5v5 scene, I would say, for Gargara and the boys, because generally any loss is a downturn for these guys, and they had a few of them during the beginning of the season. They had to go back to Goof over Carvenin. Carvenin now, I believe, is a professional Pokemon player. Congratulations to Carvenin.
Yeah.
No, like really, like,
Yeah.
congrats.
I mean, if you listen, if you're going to play a children's game professionally, then you better do it with all your heart, or it's a wasted experience, right?
Bogul.
What? Aren't we all just, anyways, playing children's games?
Yeah, I mean, we just talk about playing children's games. We don't even play them. So sad. But you know what? Now we're going to transition to the Roundtable, Bogul. I think we just need to get into it. This is the meat of the show. This is what everybody is here for. This is what they want to hear about. Your docile tones reading Korn's post.
What? Before we do this, first things first, this is a work in progress feedback request idea. So this is not fixed in
not
place.
Set in stone. All these ideas subject to change.
The reason it's out there is to get feedback. It potentially has flaws to be solved over the course of time, and there is no exact implementation point and time defined. This is the game developers thinking out loud, requesting the community to input feedback. So keep that in mind while we talk about this.
Yeah, just relax. If you hear something that, like causes you to want to pull out clumps of hair, don't. Relax. Remember, this is only a test of the emergency feedback system.
What? Anyways. So
you guys don't have that in Germany? Like
No.
with the beeps and it says this is only a test of the emergency broadcast system? They don't do that there?
No.
Well, we have that.
Right. So
Yeah, that makes sense for us.
Let me talk about two more things here. One, this is, as you can see on the very top, Albion Online forums, Albion Online community Roundtable forums. So this is a small area of the forums that only the highest scoring guilds from the previous season and select members of the community have access to. This is not a public area, so we cannot link it. But because it has been copy-pasted on Reddit, we can show that part. We can't show the responses, right? We want to keep it limited to that. Now, that said, it is Korn, one of the main game designers of Albion Online, who posted an idea: improving outline gameplay and strategic balance, with various goals in mind that should, could, will hopefully change the Outlands gameplay. So how are we doing this, Shozen? Is it just back and forth where you look at a paragraph and then talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I think we can go through the introduction and probably even get past the introduction a little bit. And then if there's something I need to come in on, I will. But I think you can start going with the introduction and goals.
Okay. Well,
and we'll talk after that.
The overall strategic Outlands situation is facing a set of challenges that we would like to look at and resolve with the following goals: level the playing field between different sized groups and coalitions, create incentives and rule sets to encourage Outlands coalitions to become smaller, and compete more with each other. Make it possible for active guilds to establish and maintain an outland presence without being forced into a coalition through rent demands. Reduce the effectiveness of cluster queue stacking and give local cluster queue benefits based on sustained activity within a zone. Make season points matter for more guilds, and generally encourage outland activity and provide strong incentives for individual players to partake in them. That's a lofty set of goals.
Well, we've been talking about these issues for quite a while. I believe we can say we've been talking about these since the changes to Queen. They've been around since about that long when we made further changes to the alliance structure and attempted to reduce the size of alliances. Well, it did reduce the size of alliances. However, it did not reduce the size of the groups that worked together. Instead of trying to do something like that, I think this is an idea to try to, how do you say, limit the amount of influence that a large group can have on a small group in a short amount of time. That's the way I would look at this situation. We've been hearing about the rental problem for quite a while. Here on the show, in the forums, everywhere we go, people are complaining about renting. And they don't like the fact that a very strong army can have a huge influence on the gameplay of many smaller groups just through the fear of, I'm going to destroy all your crap. And there's literally nothing you can do about it, because even if you could bring enough people to fight us, we can bring so many that it's just going to kick you out of the zone. And these are some complaints that we've heard over and over and over again. We've heard cluster queue problems when you can't even defend your hideout because you just get completely removed from the zone and there's only 20 of you left, and that's just not enough to defend your zone. Those are the problems that Horn's looking at. Now, do you want to read the next section where he talks about these problems in a little bit of depth and the solution to it?
So he goes on to say, below you will find a set of ideas that we would like to collect your feedback on. I am, like, one side note here before I go on. I imagine once this went through the initial phase, I think if this makes it through the test of feedback, right? If nobody shoots it in the face and finds a major flaw, then I think it will go public as well. But
yeah, very soon. Yeah.
It's the very early phase of that. So
yes.
All right. So first set of idea is hideouts and renting. Hideout renting in Albion is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, through renting, you will be able to establish a hideout in the Outlands if you are prepared to pay for it. On the other hand, there is a lack of alternatives to renting if you don't want to be forced out. The idea now is to make such an alternative possible. If your guild generates and maintains enough season points or activity, you would be able to declare an outland hideout to be your HQ.
Headquarters.
Okay, so first question that I see here is, if your guild generates and maintains enough season points / activity, is that either or both?
So it's a two-phase thing, and I believe he's going to describe it coming up soon. Okay, but the idea is, and I'll give a really short idea on this, is that through the previous season, your rank in the season would give you a token that allows you to turn a hideout into headquarters. These tokens would be limited in number according to your rank in the season. And depending on your rank in the season, different tokens would allow for you to make a headquarters in different zones. So you'd have to be very high in the rank to make a headquarters in, say, the innermost circle, but not so high if you wanted to do it in, Arch neighborhood.
Okay.
Maintaining means that so in order to turn a hideout into a headquarters, you have to have a certain threshold of activity in that zone before you do that. You have to really have played in the zone before you can make something invulnerable. So you can't just, well, hmm, with certain exceptions, you can't just go in and just place a hideout, turn it into a headquarters, and be done with it. We'll talk about that exception in a moment, but let's
Okay.
continue on.
Okay. A hideout with HQ status cannot be attacked. Each guild can only have one HQ, and only guild members can enter your HQ. If you make a freshly placed hideout your HQ, it will immediately go online. The amount of activity or season points you need to place a hideout, the amount of activity / season points you need to place a HQ depends on the zone the HQ is in. So while it might be a medium effort for a guild to establish a HQ in a low-end outland zone, it will be extremely hard to do so in a high-end outland zone. Zones. Also, HQ status needs to be maintained by being active.
Mm-hmm.
In the zone.
You can't just place a invulnerable hideout in there and then walk away and then use it when you want to. You have to maintain a level of activity in that zone, which means doing activities in like fame farming, gathering, the like. The extent of which those activities are has not been fully like revealed, but it would be that style of activities.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but what about hideout or HQ spam? For balancing based on historical season rankings, we have a very good feeling for how many guilds would be able to achieve certain season point thresholds, and thus can make sure that the number of hideouts that can become HQs globally is kept under tight control. HQ status is not permanent and would have to be maintained or renewed, and we would be able to update the requirements for season to season or reset day to reset day. Okay.
So it's invulnerable from attack for a period of time, and that means it just lasts for a period of time. Then you have to renew it in a way, either seasonally or invasion day to invasion day, and that has not been completely determined yet. The idea is to have it based on your previous season's rank, but that's still up for discussion as well. It's just the idea is to tie these tokens to season points in some way, whether they become a form of currency, I don't know, but I think it'll be more of a reward for last season's achievements. So I don't know how a reset to reset day mechanic would work, though it very likely could be that on reset day, you have the option to pick up your token and move. So that if, say, over the course of the 4 weeks between reset days, when you had put down your invulnerable hideout, the local neighborhood had gotten so bad that you didn't want to be there anymore and you wanted to pick up or change the location of your headquarters. So you changed the hideout that it was to another hideout somewhere else, and that suddenly became your HQ. But that's just an idea that hasn't been, determined. That's just a possibility for reset day to reset day, so you don't get stuck in a location.
In addition to the above, we are considering to make hideout upkeep more expensive based on the total number of hideouts in the zone. The scaling being low in low-end zones and high in high-end zones. However, HQ hideouts would not count toward this.
Now, this is huge for a lot of people. One of the big things that has been a complaint for me over the last, I would say, 4 to 5 months has been the small scale players who used to do open world, then moved on to corrupted dungeons, and then moved back. And many of them have left because the small scale in the open world and black zones has dried up because the black zones are just too safe. The combination of just being able to get into hideouts from anywhere and the huge number of hideouts, and so being able to get in so quickly has made it very, very, very difficult to gank people. But a couple of changes. This one, where the idea is that you limit the number of hideouts in the mid and deep black zones by having a additional upkeep percentage based on the number of hideouts in that zone with you, that you wouldn't want it. Like if you're in the inner circle, you don't want one. If you're a little bit farther back, maybe one or two you can deal with, but you certainly wouldn't want more than that. And like you wouldn't want to make a zone in the mid blacks with like 8 or 9 hideouts like we're seeing now with some of these rental areas, because the upkeep on each one of those hideouts would be so immense that they wouldn't be able to pay both the rent and the upkeep costs. It would just be too much. It's to really reduce some of the hideout spam that has occurred in the Outlands with instead of people earning their way into the Outlands, somebody else has earned their way in with iron, and then you simply pay a gold price to them for what is a watered down or lukewarm Outlands experience. Instead, it's designed to give people a way to both have a place in the Outlands that they can't be extorted, and to lower the total amount of rental that's going on and decrease the safety out there.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh yeah, Jason, that too. Somewhere else though.
Next part is local activity and the cluster queue. So based on your guild's activities within the zone, your guild would earn influence in that zone and possibly some influence in adjacent zones. We would define which activity would generate how many points. Details to be worked out. Remember, this is a idea, work in progress, looking for feedback. Influence, in theory, it could be used for all sorts of rewards, positive effects for your guild, but based on current thinking, we would give it the following effects. If you want to turn a hideout into an HQ, you'll need a certain amount of influence in the zone first. If you drop below a certain influence threshold in a zone and have an HQ in the zone, the HQ will revert back to a normal hideout. This threshold is high in high-end zones and very low in low-end Outlands zones. Key point: if you have a high influence in a zone, you get benefits in the cluster queue. This could mean that your guild's players have a higher cluster queue weight and or have a guaranteed slots for your guild. And influence would have a daily decay based on the current influence that you have at that point in time. For example, 5% of the influence per day.
Mm. So this is, I think actually you should read this next part because it does go into what this is supposed to do, and it's basically what I would be saying next.
Oh, okay. The impact of such a system would be that large scale power projection is significantly limited and made much harder, as strategies based on capping clusters and using the cluster queue to your advantage will no longer work that well. If you want to project power, you'll have to earn it on a guild by guild basis through open world gameplay first. That will absolutely be possible, but it should no longer be possible for one dominant force to police the entire Outlands based on a day's notice. Do you want me to go on?
Well, I can explain that, I guess, a little bit, and this will go into the next phase.
Right.
But the idea is that by having influence in a zone, you can reserve slots or create a weighted entrance into a queue. This means that as a defender, if you live in a zone, you'll no longer just get pushed out. And this is huge. We've heard this complaint time and time again, and many different levels, that you just, even if you have what you consider a good-sized fighting force, you cannot fight against the larger group because they just use their size in such a way that it creates a compounding advantage with the cluster queue. This would mean that, like, we see somebody there saying, well, if we just had instant ZVZs, then none of this would matter. Everybody wants it except for the renters. I don't want it. I'm sorry, I'm not a renter. I'm really against renting. I don't like the hand holding, but I'm certainly not in favor of purely instant ZVZ. There are problems with that I think would be just as bad as what we're facing now, if not worse. And when you see the elitism that happens in other concentrated contents, that would continue into that as well. So back to where we were here. The idea is that you would be able to reserve slots, say, for example, have really high levels of influence. You could reserve 50 slots and be in priority so that as the defender, if you brought, say, 200 people to the fight, you would be guaranteed to have at least 150 in that fight, no matter how many your opponent brought. So they could bring 600, but they could never out queue you to the point where you're losing your 150, if that makes sense.
Does. There's one paragraph. Let me read that up as well. In order to make sure that that gameplay does not become too static or stale, guilds would be able to place a war camp in a zone, which would increase the rate at which you gain influence, say by 50%, but double your influence decay per day. Such a building would be used if you want to gain influence in a zone that you are not active in yet, but they would be counterproductive, so that building in zones you already have high influence in. These war camps would be destructible 24/7, providing a good source of content and ensuring that an aggressor who tries to build up influence quickly will have to work for it. Okay.
Yeah, so how this would work is, say you have a defender who has their full bonus and they have a full 150, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they also have a group of, say, 400 guys. So not only would you be going in there and fighting against their queue of 150, but their other guys in queue would also be weighted, so you aren't able to get really a good fight, and you're the one going into a 100 versus 250 situation, and you don't want that as an attacker. That's just not going to work for you. So you can take a war camp, drop that in there, and then be really active in that zone for a period of time and build up your influence with activity. Now, every day, the grind on that, the churn would be really high. So if you're going to drop that in there, you want to make use of it quick. You want to, grind out your influence that day, attack the next day kind of situation, not, leave it in there for a week and just have moderate gameplay in there. And, it wouldn't work for you. You know what I mean? Like if you're losing 30% of your gained daily influence, that's just a guess. I don't know what they are, but say you're losing a bunch of influence per day, you don't want to make that push last for 3 days to gain enough influence. You want to be super active over a short period of time. Get your weight into the queue. It might not be as high as your opponent's, but at least it's something so you can compete. And that's how you can make your way into it. Instead of the situation now where it's only about how many people you can bring and what their IP is. This way, actual gameplay outside of the prime times would matter as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So far, I have to say I'm liking the idea. We've talked about the idea of activity in a zone many times here on the show, so it's cool to see that as a play ball to be put into the feedback grinder, I guess. The last paragraph here on that post is I guess like admin stuff. It just says timeline. Note that the below ideas what? Note that the below ideas above. Note that note that the ideas above would be in addition to what's already coming out with our next update. Interesting. Including significant improvements to seasons with much stronger incentives for individual players to contribute. Okay, we haven't heard that anywhere else, I believe, other than they want to improve the general outlines.
Wasn't that on the Roundtable? Not on the Roundtable. The roadmap. The roadmap. They talked about.
I think they said
season
they want to
rewards for
seasons.
individuals.
I don't remember.
Season rewards for individuals.
I don't remember if they said individuals, but
okay.
I think they at least said improve. So it's sort of the same thing. Significant improvement to seasons, which with stronger incentives for individual players and open world gameplay. However, they won't necessarily happen at the same time. So in dev speak, in deciphering the hieroglyphs of the almighty developers, that means it's soon TM, right? It's not immediate. It's not around the corner tomorrow.
It's still being worked. It's still in the development stages. So this is
Yes.
where we have to go back again, because somebody's in chat is somebody who's new, who just came in the middle of this conversation. This is from the Roundtable. The Roundtable is where the developers will discuss future ideas and what may be coming in the future. And this is a proposed change that is on the Roundtable, but some players leaked that information to Reddit in some broken posts and made some very outlandish reference, like they thought things were happening that are not. Like, for example, one person says this is going to ruin the roads. This is not about the roads, as far as I know, in any way, shape, or form. And I believe it even specifically discusses Outlands. And the other part of that post claimed that if hideouts can only be entered by guilds, that'll ruin the roads. Yeah, only headquarters, only HQs can only be entered by guilds. That's it. And those, okay, so it doesn't expressly state this in this post, but the idea is that they are very limited in nature as well. And while they might not be limited to one in every zone, don't expect them to flood zones. So I see somebody saying, what prevents somebody from turning 15 different hideouts into headquarters and having 15 invulnerable hideouts? So a couple of things. One, the tokens to make invulnerable headquarters are limited. There's only a certain number of them to go around. And very likely there will be limits in place to the number of them that can be in the zone. Like, this wouldn't be a situation where you could have 5 different guilds with invulnerable hideouts in Dark Burrow Snag. That just wouldn't happen. That would be game breaking. That wouldn't be something that anybody would want to do. So there will be limits in place to prevent that. I can't discuss, concretely what those limits will be, because this is still in flux and still being designed. And those are the kinds of things that they want to hear about. What kind of limits do they need with this kind of system to not make it broken? How do you stop it from being a situation that allows the renters to just have invulnerable locations that can never be removed by a war? Well, I don't think that this is supposed to be a thing that completely makes it so you just destroy all rental. I don't think that's intended to do that. I think it's to make it more of an incentive to not need to pay rent, to pay the iron price, to break in there and find a place where you can put down and call your own and work and live out of, and not be worried about somebody with a larger army kicking you out right away with no ability to defend yourself, just because you're a singular guild with 300 players and they are an alliance of 3,500.
All right. One last thing I have to finish up that thread here. Again, note that the ideas would be in addition to what's coming next. We talked about that. We can provide guidance on the timing once we have completed the specs. So he's using design speak, right? Completing specs, which again just reemphasizes that point. It's that it's a work in progress based on further discussions and feedback received. Please let us know what you think about the ideas, and feel free to share additional and alternative suggestions with us. Yeah. Interesting. That's it for the thread. There is a bunch of discussion below that, but as I said, we're not gonna. We don't have the time, and we don't want to show like individual posts in there too much, because in theory we want to respect the roundtable at least for.
I mean, I can go over some of the things that people brought up as things they're worried about. Like, again,
you only have like 10 minutes, by the way.
5-10 minutes. Yeah, I know. I want to do shout outs.
Right.
So people are worried that there are just going to be too many hideouts and zones and too many headquarters and zones.
Hmm.
That is not something I'm worried about. If anything, this is designed to limit that. Now, like I said before, they're not expressly stated in here what those limits would be, but that it wouldn't make sense to say we're going to limit the number of hideouts you can have in the zone by making them cost more and then giving you a mechanism to make a zero cost hideout that can't be destroyed and have an infinite number of those in the zone. That wouldn't make sense. That's not what SBI is looking to do. They're looking to limit hideouts and limit the ability to strong arm and extort smaller guilds and to make fights more even. Not completely even, because even if you can say reserve 150 slots, Bogle, and you got 300 guys at your disposal, but the opponent comes with, I don't know, 700.
Hmm.
I still think over time you're going to lose that fight, Bogle.
Probably, yeah.
I don't think you're going to win it. But now, even if they come 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row, they're not going to destroy what you've built over time. They can beat you. They can take your stuff. They can take your tower. They can, destroy any extra hideouts you may or may not have. They can do a lot to you, but they can't completely kick you out of the Outlands, and you can stay there and hopefully rebuild yourself over time without having to lug everything back to the city and then back to the Outlands and find some place to plant your crap. Pretty much for a season, you get in there, you're a tick, you can stay as long as you're active. And I like that idea. Live there, stay there.
Hmm. 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 I mean, I saw a bunch of other comments, and it's just the start of this discussion, so there's a lot of open questions still. And I see a lot of people, writing their 2 cents about it. For me, the big thing is that it potentially addresses some of the issues that we've had in the Outlands for a long time that have sort of developed with Queen, and it's nice to see them being addressed. And I think somewhere in the responses, it also says, look, if it doesn't work, then you can always tweak and change. None of these are, fixed forever. Like nothing in Albion is, and there's always the potential for change. There's always the potential for change of direction. And it's just what Albion is. It develops over time, and so does the world around you and how you interact with it and how the rules work of the world. And that's just something to adapt to.
Mhm.
And that's also part of the fun and challenge, I think, of such a living and progressing sort of system.
I agree. Yeah. I do want to say that there's one other thing that people are talking about here, and that's the bubble and the channel to
Mm-hmm.
get into hideouts.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I know there's discussions on that, and I don't know how far I can go on talking about that. But I think that the Outlands in general are about to become a much less safe place, and that's how I
Interesting.
would. Yeah, I think that there is a serious interest in making the Outlands a place where you're not safe all the time. I know people love Red Tree, but we don't want to see 200 red trees out there where it's just completely safe for everybody and people are doing y- dungeons on rotation. I don't think that's where Albion plays best. Albion plays best when there are people living in the zones and people want to come kill you because you're in that zone and they know you're there. As I was talking to a overworld player earlier this week, and I was describing some of the stuff here to him, and we talked about if you're a ganker, if you're a small guild that goes out and the groups of say 5 to 15, that's your general Outlands group. Right now, that doesn't really work well But in the future, should this system be implemented along with the stuff that we already know is on the roadmap, and you can look at the map and see that a zone just went from 80 to 100% to 60 to 80%, and you have and you know that they're those people who are trying to build up their towers, that gives you the knowledge to go there and hunt. Like, you know that there are either people doing fame farming or gathering, and you can go and get them. And there'll be much more of that once the world is alive with people trying to build influence.
Sounds like a good theory to me. It's always that question of practice, but you know, we shouldn't be not trying to evolve because we're scared of what could be going wrong, right? That's always how it is, and you know, I think it's an interesting idea. I think it's a good step forward, and I can't wait for the next hype cycle to start, like the next sort of trickle of information, because I mean we still have 4 weeks in the season, right? So you have to honor the season, you have to honor the current progress, you have to see the season to an end. We all have to, whether we like it or not, give I guess BA the ability to do its victory lap, right? Like proper, based on. And they should, I guess, deserve that time as well, right? So we have 26 days to see the season through. Then there is the CLC, right? There's the off season, the Crystal League Championship. So and then it's about time to look at the next season, right? And so we have about 4 weeks or so, 5 weeks or so to look forward to in terms of stuff coming out and interesting, more specific things releasing.
Look, I'm gonna be honest here. You said 4 to 5 weeks that we have to look forward to stuff. I think you got about a 2-week window before anything really new comes, at least. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll get something earlier than that, but I still feel like everybody's on vacation. I feel like vacations need to end.
That's what I'm saying.
So you're saying in 4 to 5 weeks, that's when the information will start to flow.
That's when we will have most of it ready, hopefully, because the season is about to start. I don't know a date yet, but based on history, we have like 2 to 3 weeks off season, right? So, and then it's just time to promote again. That's what it is. So,
I'm really looking forward to promoting the next stuff that we have coming down the pipeline. I have felt like for a while that I'm kind of like muzzled, for lack of a better word. Like, I can't talk about anything, and I want to, and Boogle's like, you shouldn't be talking about that.
Oh, I don't. I don't know what you can talk about. That's the big problem.
Yeah, Boogle's not at the same meetings.
Yeah, I don't get to go to some of these. Oh well. I just looked at the time, Shozen. We have about 2 minutes to do shoutouts. Maybe 4, and then we have to get ready for our next show, which is the 5 versus 5 Crystal League show with Tazik. So how about we do the final raffle of today's show, and
I just did it.
The shoutouts for today.
Yeah, I just did the raffle, Bogle. We pulled 3 raffles. We have some winners, and now I think we should do the shoutouts, but we should do it in reverse order, so we get the most recent ones first, because they're more relevant, and the other stuff that's really old is actually stuff that I felt would be timeless and wasn't dependent on the date. But K19 wishes a happy 13th birthday to Trindao. I can't yes, happy birthday. Shout out for all the shout outs. Thank you, McKay Shen, again.
Jason EQMS shouts out a Slim Slum for his support of Red Tree.
Yeah,
PPO
Bogul didn't think that
7
one was appropriate either. I see he deleted it before I could even click on it. Good job.
PPO 7 says a shout out to this insane content. 1 hour ago, I think that's a reference to
DVZ.
To ZVZ.
Yeah.
Lucas the Rat says Artista is better or greater than Africa Now. I believe there's some beef there, is there?
There might be a little bit. Sometimes it does happen that these different players in the game will suddenly have issues with other players that they play with on a regular basis, and they become seasoned or salty.
Happens, yeah.
Zaru1 says, make Albion great again. Working on it.
Raj Faj Zen says, Polish Guild Friday 13th is recruiting. If you're looking for a chill guild, it's definitely a good place to go. Polish language mandatory. We cover most of a PoE and PvP content, and Albion expect ZVZ. No mandatory ZVZ. What is this? Friday 13th. Yeah. There we go.
You found him. Are real?
Yeah, keep going. We only have a minute.
Okay, shout out to the fleet from Shabalo5. Sure. Arch is recruiting. Pulse required. Jason EQMS. Enlist for Tree Gang today. Discord, limehurst.net. Warder Grip. I don't think that's actually the Discord. Night Dawn is looking for old or new players who want to be active and would like to have fun and have chill time while playing English speakers. PM me info. Lord Fart Faces.
Some names, man. I mean, if you're all right. Next one, sir.
What happened when 50 Cent got hungry? Bogul, you know this one.
58.
That's true. Twitch drops for Albion possible? Yes.
JC Time says,
yeah, go ahead.
MH Corp on top. What's MH Corp?
You might have to Google it.
Google? Do you mean search MH Corp?
And do whatever. Yeah, I use Google like you're supposed to. It now means look for shit.
I disagree.
Shout out from Ateo Skay. It would be shout out to Jason EQMS. Yes, shout him out. Hustlin' Hitman Recruita from Norganon. HH. Go Hustlin' Hitman. They're still around. Go Acers. Don Manu Best GM. The Anima.
Shozen, I think we're done for the shoutouts with today.
It's time.
We
have to go to the next.
Yeah, we gotta get ready. We have to teleport around. We have to change the scene. We have to get that little break in for the recording. We will be right back in just like 2 minutes. So
with more gold codes to come out later. Now, I do want to warn everybody who's won. Gold codes will be going out tomorrow when I get them. I have none. But I'm still giving them away.
You will have them tonight or tomorrow morning.
Right? I will have them tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. SBI has never once stiffed me.
Good to hear. All right, guys. Have a good night if you're turning off. But how about you stay around, watch some Crystal League action. We'll be right back. Have a good night.